Hey everyone, welcome back to Make It Happen Mondays, where we talk about sales, business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, mental health, and everything in between with guests who I truly respect and I think make a positive impact on the world around us. And holy shit, do you have to listen to this conversation. I just got off with Varun and Eric, who are over at clay.com. And when I tell you, you need to listen to this conversation and share it with whoever in your network is in sales and gives a shit and wants to survive, you have to pay attention to this one. ChatGPT, in my opinion, changed everything and my perspective on this whole industry and where it's going. We're going to start to see things evolve faster than ever, and these guys are at the front of it. They are helping me personally reinvent my entire approach to prospecting specifically. And we talk about whether I'm just being an alarmist right now or if I'm being a realist with what's going on and how I see Clay and ChatGPT and a lot of these AI tools replacing a massive amount of sales professionals. But for the ones who care, there is so much opportunity. You know me, I rarely product push. I rarely say, oh, you should go check this out, right? And usually it's just at the ends, but this one is you have to check out what Clay is doing and you have to pay attention. Listen to this podcast and share it with whoever in your network is in sales and cares and wants to evolve, because if you don't, you're going to get replaced. Let's make it happen.
What's happening, Make It Happen family? Big shout out to our partners today, Gong, Vidyard, and Chili Piper. Gong's data is more than valuable. It's cornerstone in any organization looking to collect the data that's going to tell them where they can improve and where they need to spend their time making changes. Vidyard makes it easy for people to use videos anywhere. No matter whether you're sending videos in email or on social media, posting them somewhere, or sending them in a DM, Vidyard has got you covered. Our friends at Chili Piper are so much fun to be around. They make it easy for people to get on your calendar. And every sales rep has got to have this function locked in. It's one of the most important things we can do as a seller. How can I get you on my calendar easily? Chili Piper can make that happen for you. Be sure that you're checking out all these great tools. And now let's pass it over to John to find out who's joining him today. See you soon, everybody.
Varun and Eric. All right, guys, we're about to have a real fucking interesting conversation. How you guys doing? Thanks for joining me here.
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Doing great. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So for everybody listening to this one, if you've been paying attention to me online right now, talking about ChatGPT and everything else that's happening to the world that we're in right now, these two gentlemen are far further ahead than I am on this topic. And we're going to be talking today about what's going on out there in the marketplace and also what the opportunities and what the risks are for sales professionals, specifically in the SDR space. So managers, listen up. But before we do that, let's get some background here. So Eric, why don't you kick us off? Give us a little bit kind of background of where you're coming from and what got you to this point. And then Varun, let's go back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run growth at Clay. And so what I do is I help a lot of the users enable themselves to be able to understand how to use the product. And also a lot of times they come to me and they say, well, I want to do this. And I usually question their first principles. And I say, do you really want to do that? Or do you actually want to do something more interesting instead? And so I help enable the users. And then I handle a lot of the content that brings a lot of users into Clay, and they get to see it, on LinkedIn, or they see it on YouTube, and then they get to try the product themselves. Before I joined Clay, I was running an outbound agency that actually was radically changed by the way that we're using Clay. Literally every single part of our process was made far easier by using the product. And then Varun and a couple other people actually came to me and they said, hey, the way you're using the product, no one else is doing that. Could you teach other people how to do that? That would be great. And so I happily came on and joined the team. And then now we help people understand prospecting as a whole better, and then automating it inside of the spreadsheet.
Awesome. All right, Varun, how'd you come up with this, man? Where are you coming from, and how'd you start this?
Well, I didn't come up with it, so I'm happy to not take the credit on that particular. But I'm our head of operations, and I'm responsible for the business side at Clay. And Before this, I was sort of running different business units at different companies and tech and different startups and things like that. But I was sort of really into the no code, low code world. And I just randomly heard about Clay a couple of years ago when it was a shell of what it is now. And honestly, the first time I saw it, my mind was blown. And I was like, holy crap. And this was 2 years ago when it was a lot less than what we have now. And I was like, it is honestly the only software I've ever seen in my life that made me feel something, that like actually like gave me emotion in any kind of way. And I just kept thinking about it. So I had to just get involved. And so that's sort of how I got involved with the team. And, now I'm basically responsible for things that are not the product and engineering side of things, and work closely with Eric to grow the business, work with customers. Like what's cool is like we feel like, and this might sound a little trite, but it's genuine. Like we feel like we are actually just solving people's problems, and it just so happens that the best way to solve their problems is using Clay. And we never really feel like we're selling anything. I even tell people I'm not selling you, just like here's how you can solve your problem. You choose which way you want to do it. And so that's the fun part about doing this. So yeah, excited to chat and talk about prospecting.
I love it. And just to let's start off like this. So back in 2017, so everybody knows who's listening to this podcast, I've been in the game for a while. 15 years ago, Basho was the company that I took the training from, and it was this why you now email, and it was that shit worked, right? It was about doing research, finding that trigger, writing a super hyper personalized email, firing it off to the executive, getting a referral down, and it worked like a charm 15 years ago. Then, 10 years ago, I started kind of noticing, some of the cadence tools were starting to come out and that type of thing. And then in 2017, a couple of reps from Salesforce left Salesforce, and they started a company called Shakespeare. And Shakespeare was an artificial intelligence app that created personalized emails at scale. And at first they sent me an email, hey, John, we built it off of your model here, so we would like to show it to you. And at first I was like, yeah, whatever, right? Who cares? Sure, fine, send me a sample. And what they sent me, I was like, holy shit. And I immediately hit him back. I was like, wait, there was no human involvement in writing this email? And he sent me back. He's like, no human involvement other than picking the article to use from our app. And oh, by the way, it took 70 seconds. And I was like, what the fuck? Now, that just so happened to be the time where I met with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I went to his 4D session in New York, and you had a Q&A at the end with Gary. And at the time, I'm like, Gary, I just saw a computer write an email better than I could have ever written. Where does that leave us? And he was right, in my opinion. He said, look, don't worry about the technology, be the last mile. Right before it makes, hits the human, make sure that you humanize it a little bit, because technology is not there yet, right? And then I watched it not really take off. I thought it was going to eat world, and I was like, nah, okay, it's not there yet. What I saw about 4 weeks ago with ChatGPT, and what I've been paying attention to with what's happening right now, I fundamentally think we're in a different world. So let's start with the acceleration right now. Am I being an alarmist right now by saying I think things are going to accelerate at a pace? And let's macro technology wise, we'll get down to the SDR, we'll get down to that technology here. But am I being an alarmist saying that I think that technology is going to move faster than we've ever seen it here moving forward?
So I'll jump in on that first. That no, I don't think so. I don't think you're being an alarmist. I think any sales professional right now that isn't thinking about, how do I increase my technology quotient? How do I increase my understanding of all of this technology? Because, a lot of this technology is doing it way better than a human is able to do it. And it's a lot cheaper than a human, and it's more reliable than a human. So no, I don't think you're being an alarmist at all. I think any sales professional, marketer, or growth, or a person in growth needs to be thinking about, oh shoot, I need to get my head around this.
I don't think you're being alarmist, but I don't think I agree, because I think that in terms of like the technology moving faster than anything we've ever seen, I think it would be hard to beat like what we've done from like 1990 to 2010, when we're like, we had no internet, nothing, and then like we had Google Maps and Uber by 2010, and those are just a couple of things, right? So I think like it would be hard to beat that. I think right now you sort of have two spectrums of people when you're talking about artificial intelligence. You have the people who, use ChatGPT and stuff like that and see mistakes and see errors and see how it gets super confident when it tells you that the capital of Pakistan, is not correct. The capital of India isn't Delhi or whatever it is. And they're like, oh, this stuff works. And you have other people who are saying, wow, this is the craziest thing and it's going to be absolutely insane. And I think the truth is probably somewhere in between. And I think these models are really, really hard. And we're going to see other companies like Google and Facebook and Apple probably come out with other artificial intelligence models in the coming years. And so I think we've like hit a breakthrough in the public perception and in the technology, but I think it's going to still take quite a while to get these to be completely sentient or things like that. But I think and I think it's far beyond like the people who are upset about these little errors and stuff like that. Like the true potential is there, but I think the truth is really somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and I agree, but I just like it just feels different now. It's for some reason it just feels different because now I don't know if you guys saw this morning, BuzzFeed. Did you see the news about BuzzFeed?
The creators for Facebook?
They let go all their writers and they're doing everything ChatGPT and their stock went up by like 95%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, and you and I both know that like 3 years ago, people were telling people, oh, get into copy, like make sure you're really good at copy because that's going to be, fucking awesome moving forward. Now it's irrelevant. Now you just need to write prompts. You don't need to write copy. Right. So that's why just for me, it feels a little different. And I also think, and again, I'm going to stay on the alarmist piece here. If I look at this, I have been saying that this has been a correction in the software space, right? In the SaaS space, because they got overbloated over the past few years. And, now it's like, okay, they were kind of stupid. They thought that this was going to last. And now they're just firing the people that they overhired for, right? I actually don't think that anymore. I actually think it's a preparation. Because when you have a company like Microsoft drop 10,000 people, but then invest $10 billion into OpenAI, to me, that's telling them that they're using this as an opportunity to lay off a whole bunch of people because of the quote unquote economy. But they know why they're doing it because they know if they did it in a year, because they automated all this stuff and told the world like, oh, we just laid off 10,000 people because we got robots that do that stuff. The PR nightmare behind that would be way worse than where it is now in a bad economy. So again, talk to me, Eric. Am I wrong on that, or is it somewhere in the middle again on there?
Well, no. Again, I think that we are what we're in the middle of, because in some ways I do agree with Varun, because we do talk about technology as like, when we say, well, it's technology like we've never seen before, there was a much bigger leap from the Pony Express and mail and the telegraph than there was from a landline to a cell phone, right? As far as, because then you went from, 3 days of getting a message to now instantaneous, right? And so on that side, I do agree, but what I think now we're seeing is two factors that really affect exactly what's happening in the tech sector. One, automation and AI is just getting so much better that you can have one person who is enabled by a software copilot. You see it with GitHub Copilot. You see it with a lot of other tools as well. Enabled with a copilot that can now do the task of 10 people. And that is absolutely happening in the SDR model, 100%. Especially if your organization is heavily reliant on email, then 100% is happening right now. And then the other thing too is just the globalization of talent where, do we need all of these people, in the United States or in Canada or in North America when there's, like a lot of people say, intelligence is evenly distributed, but opportunity isn't. And now the world is getting flatter to be able to make that happen. So, no, I do really genuinely think that just the productivity increases that we're seeing right now, the ease that no-code automation is bringing people, the generative ideas that you're getting out of AI right now is something that, will mark a place in sales and marketing forever.
Yeah. Varun, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think what's interesting to me about a lot of the developments here is we've been talking a lot about the text generation elements of GPT-3 and ChatGPT, but what's also, I don't think I would have ever expected that something like DALL-E would have happened by 2022, 2023. And I don't think, I think if you had asked any of us maybe 10 years ago, if AI's happened, I think a lot of us may have guessed something like ChatGPT or like that sort of the text element where you can write copy and stuff like that. But I at least would never have guessed like, hey, generate an image for me of like dinosaurs playing volleyball on Mars, and for it to just come up like that, and that's insane, and it does it with such high precision and quality, and like that's just extraordinary. And so I think what's interesting to me is like how that technology developed so much faster than our imaginations could have processed, and maybe even faster than the tech stuff, right? On the software side, on the companies in the public markets, like I think the reason Google and Microsoft, Facebook, all of these have laid off all the people, I don't think that's totally connected to the AI stuff. Like I think it's mostly because public markets, are like, we don't think that these companies have cost discipline, and the amount of money that Mark Zuckerberg was spending on the metaverse and AR and VR and like that was orders of magnitude more than the public markets could stomach. So I think like those are the reasons really driving those layoffs. And I don't think those companies have really automated that much using like this new stuff, but I think they're all really big bets on like the features and what they can provide in terms of value to consumers in the future. And maybe they will start automating their own work, but that's kind of my perspective on that.
All right, cool. I hope you're right. Because I just feel like the winter's coming and they know it, and a lot of people don't. And I think that's a good transition to our conversation about the SDR and the sales world here. Because I've been preaching for a long time that I think the predictable revenue model, albeit was great at the time, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because it helped us as companies scale a sales model, right? It was a lot easier. Instead of hiring one sales rep to do everything, segment those roles, hire cheap labor, beat them up and move them through the system. Now, that was great when software eats world and everything's going well and everything else. And the tolerance from the client perspective was, okay, like this is the process, I guess. But now the predictable revenue model, I think, has been broken for a long time because it's not customer centric in any way, shape, or form. Nobody likes to be handed off 15 times before they actually talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. And we're going to go back to full cycle inside sales supported by true ABM and AI. So we're in a bit of a transition phase right now because I've been talking to CROs who see that as well. And they've already laid off their SDR team, or they've rolled SDRs under marketing and they're kind of letting them do that, but not necessarily go. So are we at the breaking point of that model? And what's the transition here? And then we'll talk about what the reps should be paying attention for that. So Varun, why don't you give me your perspective on this? Are we at the point where it's fundamentally going to shift the sales model as we know it in SaaS? Old school sales is old school sales, okay? But as we know it in SaaS, are we at the moment where it's a fundamental shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are. And I can maybe take the first half of that question and pass it on to Eric for the rest. But like, even just building off what we were saying in terms of the public markets and cost discipline and stuff like that, the years of extremely low 0% interest rates and free money basically are not here for the time being, and maybe not here for a while, and that really forces you to readjust like your priorities as a business, and really forces you to look at your balance sheet and your costs. And there's a lot of costs there when you have a team of 25 SDRs maybe, and I think now that you have so many data sources out there, so many tools like Clay and others that you can use, you can automate almost all of this work. And maybe you could automate it all with having no SDRs and just having it run through entirely from a singular person. And this isn't just Clay, like there's tools like Zapier and Airtable and so many other great products out there in the no-code, low-code world that have sort of brought this about over the last 5 to 10 years. And now that the pressure is there from investors and the markets to also do something about it, and so there's sort of outward pressure, and the tools are there to make it happen. We're sort of at the point where the circumstances allow for a shift like this to happen, and for a pretty dramatic change in how we do the sales model, so that you can get to a point where maybe you're sending tens of thousands of emails a month, 6 months, a year, and have that completely automated end to end with no human in the loop even, and have it be really high quality, really targeted, really personalized, and only have humans to respond to these emails or do direct dials and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of the the moment we're in, where a lot of circumstances have collided. But I don't know, Eric, if you have other thoughts you want to share there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of taking a step back, right? I think the one thing that I appreciate about the predictable revenue model is that every person in your Henry Ford style assembly line all should be specialized and know their task better than anybody else.
Should be. That's an operable term right there.
Yeah, exactly. And
Should
so with teams who are trying to replicate the predictable revenue model, they read the book and they say, we're changing the whole sales motion. We're going to do it this way. Then it seems they take the most junior person straight out of college who has no clue what they're doing, and then put them on the front line to represent their brand in front of every CEO in their target addressable market. And it worked back in the day, one, because, you know, you could just fire off emails. And I remember in 2016, I was doing personalized emails with just a first name, and nobody could sniff it out. I sent 200 emails and got 70 responses. Like nobody could sniff this stuff out. Now I send a personalized line based off of how long they've been at the company as the first line, a personalized line pulling in an employee that works underneath them that this tool would be able to help them with. And then I even compliment them on a restaurant in their area, and they say, take me off your list. I'm like, whoa. Wait, hold on. And so what I can appreciate about the predictable revenue model is we will still have people who are very, very good at their jobs, and they need to be siloed in order to do those things. What it will change towards, I think, is outbound is going to become more like the ad networks of Facebook and Google and Amazon. And what I mean by that is people hate outbound because there's no relevance to them. They get the email and they're like, I'm out. People, I would go to my friend's house and they talk about Bed Bath & Beyond, and then we'd see an ad for Bed Bath & Beyond, and they're like, oh my God, they were like listening to us. No, they're not listening to you. You looked up Bed Bath & Beyond on your phone. I connected to your Wi-Fi. They see us in the same spot. They're not listening to us. But what I can appreciate about that is finally on Instagram, I'm getting ads of things that I might genuinely buy.
Dude, Instagram has me figured out. I'm like, oh, cool. And you're hitting on the point that sorry to jump on this, but that's exactly it. Like, if my inbox was filled with super relevant fucking good ideas and shit like that, like I'd actually be kind of interested, but it's filled with a bunch of bullshit. So it's like when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, actually, I do want that. I didn't even know that thing happened.
Exactly.
Like, that's fucking cool. And I like it.
And so now I think the revolution that we're really going in right now is if you think that you could just email every chief marketing officer in your market with 50 and 100 employees and say the same thing to all of them, my bet is not on your horse. But if you break down your market and you say, okay, if this trigger is true, we're going to say this. If this is true, we're going to say this. If this about their company is true and they don't have these people on the payroll, we're going to say this. And you have all of these relevant steps that you could know and experiment with on your users. And then the best part about all that is there doesn't have to be any humans in the loop with all of these data sources that are together. Whether or not you want to check out Clay, like just keep investing in data rather than people and automation. One CEO came to me and they said, I took them from 1 in 500 emails as a positive response, and I got them down to 1 out of like 150. We like really, really improved the response rate that they were getting. And he said, all right, I think I want to double the SDR team so that we can send more emails. And I was like, what? Or I just set up more inboxes. And they were like, yeah, but what about their LinkedIn profiles? I'm like, what about their LinkedIn profiles? LinkedIn, you can connect with 100 people a week, maybe, and then you get 30% of them to connect with you. And then what are you going to do? Pitch slap them? Like, right. No, people think about LinkedIn all wrong, which could be a whole nother conversation. It's a media platform, not a DMing cesspool.
Totally
we can talk about that later. Yep. But anyway, that's where I think all of this is headed.
So, all right, I want to take two angles here on this, one from a rep standpoint, one from a business standpoint. We got companies who are in the predictable revenue model that have SDRs that are getting less and less results, but still rolling off of old playbooks. And I'm gonna throw myself into the fire here of an old playbook. I think my playbook's one of the best out there, without question, for what was. I fundamentally know that if I don't completely overhaul what's going on right now, then I'm going to be I'm a dinosaur already, but I'm going to try to be the alligator that comes out of the dinosaur realm and stays still an alligator. It might not look like a huge beast, whatever, but I'm still going to be here, right? So let's talk about the companies first. If you were a VP of sales right now in an organization that had a 50 SDRs and 150 AEs, and you were seeing that the outbound stuff just was not working right now, would you, and be as draconian as you want on this, would you literally cut the 150 or cut 45 SDRs out of the equation, keep 5 of them, and then empower them with the tools that you guys have? Or would you find some way of leveraging those 50 SDRs to do something through this transition?
I might suggest option C, which is spend a week, not even, spend a few hours, use something like Clay or something like that, and just test this out. We're not spitting out voodoo magic or something, just test it out, see how it goes, and it'll almost certainly, and then compare that to the output of your SDRs. And then this thing costs a few $100s a month maybe, and that thing costs you tens of thousands of dollars a month maybe. And look at the output you're getting on the SDRs, look at the output that you're getting on this automated solution, and just compare. And then you don't even have to make this dramatic choice. And then you have the numbers to back it up. And so I probably recommend just testing something like this out for a week, 2 weeks, a month, something like that. Get the data that you need and invest in that. And then either no one wants to lay people off, right? And either see, can you make these people a lot more efficient and get exponentially higher degrees of output from the existing workforce? And if not, then maybe talk about a riff or something like that. But if you can, that's maybe a win-win solution for everyone.
And then I just want to also just open up with, I've never been a chief revenue officer. I've never been a VP of sales. So it's tough to give that perspective as well. But what I have done is I helped multiple SaaS companies in the outbound agency. I've helped multiple SaaS companies at Clay. And what I would be doing too is having a conversation around, okay, what do we have here? If, say, this all does work and we completely automate email and we could get them all personalized and they're all relevant, what do we have here? We have people who can make really good direct dials. We do have that. We have some people who can really handhold and really manage a large account and watch that with the level of human expertise and relationship that we don't have. But then we also have all of these LinkedIn profiles that if we give a content strategy to, could also become a huge beacon for our company as well. And I would just have a conversation and sit down with everybody about, okay, we want to leverage more automation and we want to leverage more data. Varun and I, if you look at our statistics for Clay, about 40% of all of the waitlist signups come in through our LinkedIn posts. I think a lot of companies aren't taking as big of a stand as they possibly can on social media. None of the SDRs are posting. They're not being, the lighthouses for the company. And there's tons of free impressions out there. So I think there's still opportunity to keep that head count. It's just, well, what are we going to have these people do now instead of the things that we could take over with automation and everything? But that being said, I still would sit there and I'm a CRO or a VP of sales. I think you should set up 100 inboxes, get them all warming up, give yourself a month to prepare, and then light this stuff up and, escape the spam filter. But, that's also my take too.
Yeah. Well, and I think, but both of you really outlined there was the value is not necessarily the sales value. It's more the marketing value of these players, right? SDRs getting on LinkedIn and posting and sharing stuff and leveraging the tools and the insights and those type of things to connect with people. Now the phone is where I think it's going to have a resurgence, because I do believe that is part of, that's a human piece. And I will tell you right now, I'm actually curious of what just happened to me literally today. I get this call from the local police, for donations, right? And it is blatantly obvious to me that they are reading a script, right? So they'll read a script to me and I'll be like, guys, and obviously because it's the police and I don't want to piss them off because I don't want to be on their bad list, right? So I'm like, hey, I'm like, could you just talk to me like a human being? And the guy keeps going back into his script, right? And then he did it twice. In the second time when he called, I said, look, I paused. I said, are you a robot? And he said, "No, sir, I'm not a robot. I'm just going through a process here too." But he read it like a robot. So part of me was like, this motherfucker's a robot. Like this, you know what I mean? Like this is ChatGPT with an AI thing giving me the answer to the question that I had, but continuing on their script. So, but I was still questioning them because I know what historically, I know what a robot sounds like. You know what I mean? Like when I get the robo dial and it's hi, I'm like, all right, fuck off, right? And then it kind of kicks to a human, and now finally the human says something, right? But this one was so weird because the guy he sounded robotic, but there was enough little points in there that I was like, wait, is he human? So I guess with what you're seeing I know you're working with my boy KD, with like Get Potion, you know what I mean? With Get Potion is the deep fake stuff, right? So with the deep fake stuff, and then somebody like Jeffrey Gitomer, who is in our space too, Little Red Book of Sales, self-proclaimed king of sales, he's telling me that he's uploading all his shit to the group that actually works with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson's family, and he's going to create an avatar of Jeffrey Gitomer that is going to be Jeffrey Gitomer. It's not going to be like a cartoon version of Jeffrey Gitomer. It's going to look exactly like him. And because he's got so much content out there, they're feeding it into this machine, and they're going to create a coaching tool that any rep can sign up for and get coaching from Jeffrey Gitomer, right? So like you'll be able to ask like, hey, Jeffrey, I'm about to go into a meeting with a CFO and this is the situation. Any suggestions? And he will answer it exactly as if he would answer it, because he doesn't, he's not saying new things. Like he's got, catalogs of content. So with the deep fake shit happening and the stuff like, not OpenAI, but the chat bot or the voice AI stuff, how are we going to be able to tell that it's a human? And let me put one more piece to that. And does it matter? Outside of layoffs and getting rid of people and all that other stuff, does it actually matter? Will it matter that I fucking care that I'm talking to a human in the future?
So one, I think that it will. One, people despise if they feel like the email was just an automated email, they despise being on the other side of it. But
Eric, I'm going to jump in on that you made the point earlier that if it was really fucking relevant and super personalized to me, I wouldn't give a shit if it was. I wouldn't give a shit if it was automated.
I'd also say that maybe on like chatbots and stuff like that, people aren't like that upset, and like people get the help they need when they reach out to an airline or a Dyson or whatever and ask for help, and they get automated responses. And there's all these little companies that are being sprouted up right now that ingest all of a company's documentation, and like it's an AI chatbot to just like explain and answer questions directly. And
that's true.
That's pretty helpful. And like, I'm not that upset. As long as my question gets answered, I'm not upset. If my question doesn't get answered, if the problem doesn't get solved, then that's a separate issue. But if it does, then like, that's a lot faster, that's better for me too.
Yeah, that's true. And I think inside the sales world, it will, people will appreciate it as long as it's relevant, and you're pointing out on somebody's website they found this error and those kinds of things. I think there might be, I think people could be a little mad if a personality were to, so if you were to make deep fakes and say, hey, like, I've seen the work that you're doing as an SDR, you do it so well, blah, blah, and then they find out that wasn't you, I could see them being like, oh, you know what, I had my whole career because John Barrows told me that I was doing a great job.
Yeah,
so I don't know, maybe something like that.
I sent you a video and now you're like, fuck you,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, maybe something, but Varun's point is very good as well. Like, there's so many customer support. I think all of customer support is going to get radically changed, because you can just take all of the documentation and then just, now it's the same thing. Turn 10 SDRs into just one sales ops person. You could probably take 10 success managers and just put it into somebody who's jockeying the tough questions.
What's up, everybody? I know you're enjoying this conversation. John does a great job with genuine curiosity on these episodes, and our guests consistently bring the heat. We want to take a moment here and let you know that you've got an opportunity to become better than you were yesterday. And you can do so by gaining access to all of JB Sales content. All of their training, tips, techniques, tactics, and takeaways can be yours for $1 a day. $365 for the year gets you annual access to everything, including our private Slack channel for members only, which you get access to all of us directly 100% of the time, 24 hours a day. And then at the same time, you're going to get get access to our bi-weekly Ask Me Anything sessions where you can bring real deals to the table and get the help that you need where you need it. This is very, very important. Sales reps that invest in themselves are often found at the tops of their leaderboards. Join us today and get the help you need to become the seller that you deserve to be. That URL, one more time, is joinjbsales.com. Let's get back to the show with JB and our guest for this week.
All right, so let's talk then, what does a sales rep do right now? So I'm a 23-year-old SDR. We're in a shit economy. I'm listening to this fucking podcast right now and going, holy shit balls. What does that mean for me? And what do I need to be focusing on? I'm saying to reps, business acumen, emotional intelligence, and curiosity. Those are the things that you got to really double down on, because that is, that emotional intelligence, that connection with people, the genuine curiosity, even though computers can do that too. There is just something about, I'd rather not go through a tree of questions. I'd rather just have a dialogue with somebody. But if you're that rep right now, and I'm only talking to the reps that give a shit, by the way, the ones who have been fat, dumb, and happy over the past 10 years by pushing fucking buttons because this industry has been on fire for 10 years and never sold through a down economy, and you go home at 5 o'clock and you wonder where your leads are coming from every time you step into a company, those people can fuck off. I got no sympathy for them. But for the reps that care, that are like, I love this profession of sales, I want to get better, but I don't want to get replaced, where and what should they be looking and focusing on right now?
Yeah. So like I said, I think technology quotient is going to be the difference between all of this, right? Like, just if you're a sales rep and you know how email deliverability works, instantly you are ridiculously more important to the organization, because this is something that every single organization is having a problem with right now. If you understand how automation works, awesome. If you understand how to collect data and to synthesize that data in order to run a better outreach campaign, that's what you do. And whether you're using Clay to do these things or you're using other no-code tools, just brushing up the amount of SDRs that I talk to, and I ask, what's your day-to-day like? And they go, okay, I log on, I go into Sales Navigator into my saved list. I get a spreadsheet out and I copy and paste 15 people for the day. And then I find their email addresses manually by looking them up one by one in Seamless. And then I write personalized emails to all of them, which ends up being some crap about the college that the person went to. And then they ship off those 15 emails, and then they'll do their 70 wishy-washy direct dials that they hope to connect with somebody on that they were told to do. And then they repeat it the next day. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And that company, I went to the CEO and I was like, I will give you your whole TAM, the entire thing. You just pay for the emails to validate, and I'll get you the entire thing at cost. And he was like, all right. And it turned out to be less than what he pays one of those SDRs on a monthly basis. And I was like, how have you guys just not even thought about this? But this isn't just at startups though. I was speaking to somebody at Amazon 2 weeks ago, AWS. He was like, yeah, they still have me manually pull people out and do these things. And I was like, oh, here's your list. Here's all 2,000 people in your market. You're done. Go do something else. And it's just because they just don't have the technical quotient, the access to the tools. They don't even know what questions to be asking as well. So I tell everybody, you need to learn how to use generative AI. Prompting is going to be huge to be able to do that. You need to learn how to web scrape, and you should know how to use no-code tools / figure out how an API works. And then you become incredibly invaluable to the rest of the organization. I say all the time, there's a huge difference between a rep who knows how to scrape data and a rep who doesn't. And
right.
The one who knows how to scrape can just move so much faster.
Yeah. See, I need to learn how to scrape data.
Well, we're teaching you. We got
I know. Varun, what are your thoughts on what reps
I don't have too much to add relative to what Eric said. I think the more technical you are, the more indispensable and differentiated you become as a person and as a resource on a team. I think that if you can learn how to do these things, there are very few people who know how to do these things, and the key is you don't want to have to depend on other people, right? You don't want to have to depend on this person to show you how an API works, on this person to help you set up these apps, on this person to help you build lists. And if you can just be more self-sufficient, you can develop all these skills, and they're really, really rare. And soon you won't be an SDR, soon you'll be an AE, and then you'll be managing people. And maybe you decide to start your own business because of how successful you are and how much value you're creating. Like, honestly, if I was one of these people, like and Eric knows, like lead gen agencies, very lucrative businesses, and like very good, and not that hard to understand the core skill sets, and like it's there for the taking for people who are hungry and who want to learn and get better.
And I think that's the point. I think that's the piece of this that I hope my audience is listening to. You know, and you guys have heard me say this before. I say, you know, I did a training one time and you know, 300 kids at the end. When I say kids, obviously that's a Boston thing. They weren't all kids. But you know, one of them said, "Hey, John, you train all of our, you know, we saw your logos, man. You train all of our competitors. Like, if you train us all on the same content, then where does that leave us, right?" And I said 10, 60, 30. And he goes, "What?" I go 10, 60, 30. I go 10% of you in this room are going to take what I tell you and run with it and execute at the highest level because that's the type of people you are. 60% of you in this room are going to do something different because it's easy and it makes sense. 30% of you ain't going to do shit different. So the question isn't how many people can I train? The question is what percentage do you want to be in?" And I genuinely believe that, look, I've always been a little bit frustrated with B players because I'm like, why don't you want to be a fucking A player? But I've realized a long time ago that the world needs B players. If we had all A players, we'd tear each other apart, right? So there are the people who are just happy doing what they're doing. But unfortunately, I look at those people, which is probably the bottom part of that 50% in the middle, that 60% in the middle, right? That those people are in danger of getting replaced through automation because if their jobs are just kind of doing the job, but it's that the top end of that 50% that want to get better and those 10% that know what's going on right now. It's that spot. The top 50% of that 60% is the people that I'm speaking to right now. And that I'm trying to get on this train of figuring this shit out and learning and trying to forget what you know and get on the train right now for what is to come. Because like I said, I personally think that we're going to start seeing stuff move faster than I personally have ever seen in my career. And I look, I get the telegram to this and I get the leaps that we've made. Okay. But not in the past 15 years have we seen leaps, and we're seeing leaps right now. Now, how do we monetize all this stuff? Who fucking knows? There's a bunch of nodes out there right now, but the fact that Microsoft put 10 billion into OpenAI and they have LinkedIn and they have, you know what I mean? Like, I'm now looking at Microsoft going, ooh, you know, everybody's like, look, oh, Microsoft, you old fuck. No. Like, once they put all these pieces together, they're going to potentially be the fucking killer app again for everybody. What else should be people paying attention to right now? Anything that, I mean, look, like I said, I think emotional intelligence, I don't know how to train on emotional intelligence. But I think it's important. I think curiosity is really important. And, like I said, business acumen, learning the structure of business so you can actually have conversations with people about this and the impact that it's having. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not talking about sales training anymore with a lot of the teams that I'm having conversations with. I'm like, yeah, I can train your team, like based on this contract. Have you seen what's going on out there? What are your thoughts on this? And because I'm staying like literally even a half a step ahead, they're like, what the fuck? Holy shit. I need you to talk to my CRO. I need you to talk to, and I'm elevating the conversation because I have business acumen and because I have context. And I'll bring one point up, and this is my fear, is you said customer service, Eric, is going to fundamentally change, right? I totally agree with you. I saw a 15-year-old kid create a customer service response on TikTok, right? Where he just automated all this customer support stuff. And I was like, holy shit, that's brilliant. And I guarantee that's better than almost anybody would ever do. But the problem is that kid's 15 years old. He has no idea what customer success or service even is. So I guess, let me ask you this. Does it matter the context that somebody brings to this technology? Or is the technology good enough that somebody without experience can be vastly better than somebody with experience but without the knowledge, with the tech, right? So when I say this, like, if I'm going to say like somebody like me, old school, fucking get it, right? But I'm kind of a luddard when it comes to the technology, versus some 20-year-old kid who has a little bit of knowledge about sales with tools like what you guys have. Who wins?
Wow, what a great question.
Who wins? I know my answer. 20-year-old kid, because there's enough knowledge out there right now from guys like me. I mean, think about Varun, you had this with the artists, right? Like, blows your mind with the artists. What the fuck is going to happen with artists right now? There's no original art anymore, and all of that, and there's actually lawsuits now of artists suing because the bot is learning off of me. You know what I mean? Like the Beatles. If I'm the fucking Beatles right now, and AI is being pointed at my library and creating music that sounds like my shit, like I gave the machine that, but now any fucking dipshit kid can say, write me a song like the Beatles, and I want to be it about, you know, balloons and frogs and whatever it is, and it'll sound like a cool ass song for the Beatles. So is it better to be that kid with technology knowledge, like you said, like learn their scraping and learn that, or an experienced person that has the knowledge but can't scale it, can't get it out to as many people?
Oh, what a good question. Because I could see both sides of it. And I think I'm going to just answer it with an example of the amount of people that Varun and I demo. And we say, essentially, every database that you could possibly want is at your fingertips right now. And if we don't have it yet, we'll build it.
Yeah.
And you also can use Google inside of Clay. So any research that you want to do, tons of time, people are like, well, I always check to see if they mentioned this thing on their website. All right, done. We can do it. It's over. Move on to the next thing. But the amount of people that we demo who come to us and they say, I just want to get emails out of Sales Navigator is just ridiculous. And I'm like, I've even been on demos with people and they're like, we think Clay can change our entire sales function. And then I talk them through the process and I'm like, I'm going to be completely honest. Clay is actually a little overbloated for you. You should do X, Y, and Z. And here's a couple parts that you could do in Clay. Would love if you buy the software. But honestly, you just need these 3 softwares and you can just go nuts. And they I was on the phone with the head of growth. And then the other person on the phone was like the VP of operations. And she looks at the head of growth and she's like, I can't believe you never thought of that before. And so the reason I say this is because I think the one thing that the 20-year-olds doesn't bring is they don't bring the context to have good ideas. Like all of this is great, but to not have a good idea just kills. The amount of times I meet marketers and I tell them, I'm like, the best thing you can do in a cold email is give your most valuable thing away for free. And then they come up and they're like, well, we have this white paper. And I'm like, no. So what I mean by that is, so at Clay, we're about to launch an outbound campaign. Of course, it's a test. We've never done outbound. We get so much inbound that we want to get our feet wet though, because we need to know, one, how does an outbound program work? And then if we run ads, what are we going to say? We have to figure these things out. And the outbound campaign I'm running is going to be to about 700 GDPR compliance softwares. And I'm going to tell them, look, I know a big part of your workflow is knowing if the company you're reaching out to is even compliant to begin with. I'm sending in the email. I'll teach you how to scan their website for the keywords GDPR compliant, GDPR, and data processing addendum. So you know before you talk to them that they're GDPR compliant or not. And that's the campaign we're going to run. And if anybody's listening to this podcast and wants to tell me that that's not a valuable, a value first campaign, love to get an opinion on what would be better than that.
Come on.
But there's so many marketers who are like, well, we have this white paper. We can show people how to do these things. And it's like, no. And so that's the only thing that I have against that is there are people, business brokers, speak to them all the time. One of my most successful campaigns I've ever run is targeting businesses that potentially want to sell. And anybody want to take that campaign? It's a 12% response rate campaign. Super, super easy. Talk to business brokers. They have no clue how to make that work. Nothing at all. So you have these people who have all this context and they've been in the industry for 20 years, but they can't even open that up. So I don't know quite how to answer that question, but I do want to just say that people are missing a ton of context and just good ideas. But then there's also people who know what to say, but then they don't have the technology. So again, I hate to say that it's somewhere in the middle, but with those two examples, I hope it makes sense of why I'm saying that.
I get it. Varun, what do you think?
I think the 20-year-old is probably going to be better positioned at creating a small software business that makes him like $1 million a year or something, and that you would be better positioned at asking people to pay you $20,000 a month for advice that they can't find anywhere else. And so I think both people will be successful, just in different ways.
Yeah, I think that's where, my hope is is that kind of the experienced people get on this train to realize that they can actually now leverage their experience at such a bigger volume, and
they can productize it.
Yeah, they can productize it, and they can actually make a bigger difference. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like I can make a bit. I feel like, you know, I've always been frustrated, and you guys are gonna help me do this. You know, for instance, for me, Grant Cardone, I fucking hate Grant Cardone, but Grant Cardone is 100x me. Why? Because he's got this megaphone and he has no problem stuffing crap down people's fucking throats and forcing them to buy and doing the old school bullshit, right? And he's like the bane of my existence. I'm like, God, you know, if there's a direction that a rep comes into sales and they get, you know, I'm just hoping they get access to my stuff versus his stuff before they dive in, right? So, because they're going to take one of those two tracks. And so, but I don't have a megaphone, and I want to help more people do sales, in my opinion, the right way, right?
Well, and so sorry to interrupt,
Please.
but we were talking about, like, all right, so what should people focus on? You want me to scrape a website? I can scrape any website. I could get through Cloudflare, you know, whatever you want me to get through. And if you even know what I meant by Cloudflare, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But one thing that I wanted to add onto that is, all right, if you're not going to be this technical, then you should learn how to build an audience, because the ability to build an audience is going to just get more and more expensive as time goes on. And you should just start doing it right now. So if you're a sales rep and you're like, I don't even know where to get started, technical, just start posting content. Because I'm not sure if you knew this, but I had the opportunity to work with Grant Cardone. It was a partnership. I didn't work in the company, but we partnered with them. And I saw it from the outside looking in. And their ability to just cram content down people's throat is 100% their success. There's literally no other success. Like, if they can just cram content down people's throat. And so that's what I say. And that's why I said about, you know, if you're a sales rep and you're a beacon for your company on LinkedIn, you can get 4,000 views a post on LinkedIn. And if you try to do the same thing on Instagram, you're going to get 40. Like, literally, you could just start posting today and get more eyeballs than what you would pay for ads on Instagram. So, but people just don't do that enough. And so I 100% agree with you. And then it's the next side of just, how do you take on like an Alex Hormozy content style, where you have this quantity of content and the quality is super high, and you can just keep ripping through that. And sales reps should, there are sales reps who are changing their entire career just because they started posting on TikTok. Like, you have no clue who these people are, but they're like now the cold calling master because you saw them on TikTok. You know, it's so, that's what I think. Another thing, sales reps, if you don't want to get technical, start putting out that content.
Well, and real quick before you jump in, Varun, that's what I'm learning too. Is we at Sell Better here, you know, I started this as Jay Barrows. I didn't want to, because I was like, people think I'm an extrovert. I'm not. I'm an introvert, and I force myself to be an extrovert when I have to. So me being Jay Barrows, I was like, fuck, I don't like this, right? But I said, all right, well, training is about the person, and the training is like a 50-50 thing. But then as we grew up, we moved to JB Sales. And then we moved to Sell Better by JB Sales. And that was a very purposeful thing to get away from me personally and put it on the company. But now, and this is literally this inflection point for us, any 20-year-old kid can do ChatGPT and, you read a few blog posts and be the expert, like you said, on TikTok, the cold calling expert, right? So me trying to, like, us as a business being like what we are, and I think we have a great brand, but I'm going to have to lean back in on the personal brand of this, based on the industry, based on how long I've been in this industry, because there's credibility there. And that's what I'm going to now start to leverage more than anything else I've ever done, which is my credibility in this space. Because that's what, if you're going to listen to somebody, like, everybody can kind of do the same thing. So who should you listen to? And it's brands, it's personal brands, it's people with followings, it's people who are adding value to their communities. And companies, I've always said this, I think companies are going to have to get very comfortable with individuals within their companies representing their brands, like chief evangelist officers and those type of things. So insights there, Varun? Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think that people should definitely. I mean, there used to be this culture, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Demand Curve, which is like a very popular, like, content platform for, they write great stuff on growth, basically, and they have an agency that's attached to it. And they have these amazing guides on growth. And someone on our team used to actually work at Demand Curve, and wrote a bunch of like guides and stuff like that on their website. And then like he left, and then they erased his name from everything. And this is like a really like prominent website. And so I feel bad for kind of calling them out, but I think they now actually put their keep everyone's names on it now. So I think they've changed policies there. But like those types of policies, that type of approach isn't going to, get the types of people that you need who are going to champion your brand. And I think the more that these companies have more of a human voice and like more of like and more resonant and try like we at Clay, we have a Slack, and actually all of our support happens on the Slack. There's nothing else. There's no like, I guess you can email us, but there's no like Zendesk or Intercom or anything like that. Like you get on the Slack and like you just talk to us like immediately, and it's like you have a problem, we fix it. You want something, we do it. And like maybe that can't work if we have 10,000 customers, but for now it's working. And I think like there are people who actually buy Clay just because of the Slack, because they get there, they're like, wow, this is crazy. The value that we get is like insane just from seeing what other people are able to build. And so I think the more that brands can lift up the people who work there and sort of make that a lot more human, the more they can get differentiated in unique ways.
Yeah, and that's the balance, right? I see it from a business standpoint. It's kind of like training right now these days, because there's very limited loyalty anymore in general. And I'm saying from both sides of this equation. Like for instance, the average SDR. So what is it, 14 months or something like that, maybe at best. And I don't mean like average SDR before they get promoted to another role. I mean average at the company, right? So if you're a company looking to invest in your team, you need to give training, because if you don't give training and, if you don't invest in your people, then they're going to leave. But if you do invest in them, there's a strong likelihood they're going to leave. So from a brand standpoint, I'm going to invest Varun. I want you to come over here. I want you to be Varun. I want you to go out there. I want you to build your brand, and we're going to help you do that. And holy shit, you just built your brand, and now you're fantastic. And now you're going to go bounce and do something else because you're more valuable to somebody else. So it's this weird, I don't envy organizations right now trying to figure this out, because I think individuals with brands and who know, like what you guys are saying, like get out there, start posting, get a following and those type of things, they're going to be able to kind of basically call their shots, right? Because if you can bring an audience to a company, you're far more valuable than if you're a great sales rep. Because I personally think that we're doing this from a marketing and sales standpoint. I think marketing is eating sales. I think most sales reps have to become mini marketers. And
100%.
Yeah. Like, because if there's not, like, it's not about just the cold, it's about the tweet, the share, the retweet, the email, the video, all these little small positive impression points that we're coming after you with. And then once that intersection happens where I finally got you to say, maybe I should talk, now I got to be a real person, right? But it's, yeah. I mean, I see where it's going. I see Iron Man. Like,
I also don't understand. Oh yeah, my computer's name is Sales Jarvis. That it's like I've literally named it that if you look it up on Bluetooth. Nice. And so I just don't understand why reps don't invest in these like social kind of audience building thing, because even if you don't have an audience, at least maybe they're intimidated, but it's like at least even if you don't have an audience, somebody could still look you up and say, oh wow, they post valuable content. Or the amount of times I get on a call and somebody's like, I saw you on the podcast, on another podcast, or I saw your LinkedIn post. It's been super helpful. I just have these couple of questions and then I'm going to buy Clay. It's like, perfect. That's what we're here for. Like that's what this whole motion is all about. And so, but also this is also becoming super important, because I love outbound. And the reason I love outbound is because the ROI is just nuts if you can get it right? We're talking about a couple email domains, data that's, get it from the right place. It's half a penny per contact, super, super cheap and great ROI. And you could go directly to people are qualified. There's a lot of things for outbound, but you have solutions like Gated that are blocking people's inbox. The spam filter is tougher to get through. I keep my phone on do not disturb. I don't pick up a phone call of anybody from an unknown number that I don't see. LinkedIn is cracking down on how many DMs you could do. I actually think that outbound as a whole might even be in trouble one day. And audience building, ads, and all that stuff is like all that's going to be left over anyway. So if I tell sales reps anything, I always tell them, get your social game on point, get your technical quotient on point, because you're going to have to lean on those pretty hard going forward.
And I think one of the things, Varun, you might have said it, like they're scared, but I think it's also this immediate satisfaction or immediate gratification that everybody's looking for, and they're not playing the long game, right? They're looking, so if they post, for instance, like, look, right now, I mean, I just read the other day that podcasts, it's harder than ever now to start a podcast. Like, if you started a podcast like 2 to 3 years ago, you got a lot of traction, right? Same thing with TikTok. Like, if you got on TikTok early, man, that fucking algorithm puts you everywhere. But now it's really hard to go viral on TikTok, right? So I think there's that immediate gratification, like short-term thing that isn't there for them, and therefore they give up, right? Because it's not going to directly lead to revenue. Doing a social post, sharing something like that, and the pressure that these reps have to deliver results, balanced by, right?
Yeah.
So they're not long term; they're looking short term, and therefore they're going to lose
something helpful to say, and right. And it has to be helpful, valuable. Like that's not easy,
There's
That's
a
true.
hack to that. My hack to that, and this is what I tell reps: don't tell people how fucking smart you are. It's just like Challenger sale. Fuck you, Challenger sale. Like, I mean, literally, and I don't mean like great. I love Challenger sale, and I think it's a great thing. But I mean, who in there? I got myself in trouble a while back. Like, I stood up in front of a whole group of, this was like 10 years ago. I was like, could you all do me a favor and stop teaching 22-year-old kids how to be a fucking challenger, please? Like, they don't even know what they're talking about yet to be a challenge. Like Gary Vee said, you can't be a 22-year-old life coach, right? You haven't even lived yet. So, but the ability to share content of what you're learning, Varun, that's the key. It's, if you consume content with the primary goal of learning, and then what you do is you share that with your context of what you learned.
Build in public.
Then it doesn't matter how many people click on your shit, because you've actually crossed off the primary goal, which is you learning.
I think every
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Every creator needs to start from a place of, I did this versus you should do this.
Yes.
That's where, like, you can post, you should do this stuff all the time. Varun and I are ringing the bell every day of like, I just made this, like, but we're not saying this is the sales motion that you need to take on. And so and it's just people knowing kind of their spot on that line of, when, and I don't even really know when you cross that line of you should do this.
You shouldn't.
Sure, great.
In my opinion, you will rarely hear me say, this is exactly what you should do to when you make a cold call. Mine is, I don't know, try this and try this. I've tried this and it works a little bit better for me, but you could try that because your personality is different than mine, right?
Yeah. So there it is from Jay Barrows. You even keep it always to, I did this, because you're absolutely right on that. Too many people are like, I'm the next, cold email king. And it's like, I ran this campaign. I got a 3% response rate. Anyone got thoughts? It's far better content than the other one.
Hell yeah.
When it comes to content, I feel like there's like two ends of the spectrum. There's either like people who are absolute experts in their space, or like have this like amazing history that other people don't know about. Like, sometimes I see on Twitter, like, these former NHL players are like, here's what it's like to really be a NHL player. Or I was a pilot on private planes. Here's what it's like to actually be do chartered planes all the time or stuff like that. And that's interesting to people because it's this like, 1% thing where someone has a set of experiences and no one else does, and they're sharing that, and that's super valuable. And then you have the other end where it's like, you don't know anything about something, but you're teaching people as you go along, and that's like super valuable too. And so those like two ends of the spectrum I find like really, really helpful as like grounding mechanism, like what can be successful.
You notice that, and I'll make last point here on that, is you notice the people that you would look to say, wow, that is the fucking expert. He should be telling me what to do, for instance. You notice most of them have podcasts where they have conversations about it, as opposed to posting things about what you should do. Mm-hmm. Like, I look at Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek, based on where he is in the industry, he should be telling us, go do your why. Like, set up your why. You need to do this. These are what your values should be. But he doesn't do that. He says, here's what the why did for me. Here's an example of when somebody got true to their why, what it did for their life. It's like, oh shit, right? As much as he could be telling me, like, you got to do this, he's having a conversation about it and giving stories and examples and learning lessons. Tim Ferriss, another brilliant person who most people would agree. Tim Ferriss, tell me what the fuck to do, man. How do I make a 4-hour work week? Tell me what to do, right? But everything in the 4-hour work week is an example of how he did it. Like, he's not saying do it. He's like, this is what I did. And this is what it made. This is how it allowed me to live this life that I lived, right? So that's where I think that I'm noticing, to me, the real soothsayers, the real ones who are out there, they're having conversations like this. And they're humble enough to realize what they know and what they don't know. And they interject when they do, you know what I mean? And they take a step back when they don't. And that's, to me, I think, social building brands all day, every day. So, shit, guys, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we could. I mean, I'm excited to be working with you guys on this, because my hope is that with your help, we can turn me into the sales rep of the future, who can do, who has exactly what I said earlier, who has the experience but can leverage the technology to get that experience out to a broader audience, and has the context to do it. But just do it in a way that is thoughtful and is real, as opposed to just mass spam engine bullshit that I think is going to hit us real fast here, real soon. So I appreciate you guys partnering with me.
And before we close up, could we just tell everyone a little bit tidbit of what we're working on? Yeah. And so if anyone's like, well, what are they doing? And then they just cut the podcast. And so essentially what we're working on is this dynamic customer list. And what we're helping John with is, okay, you want to walk up to every VP of sales and every chief revenue officer of a B2B company that has 50 sales reps. What are you going to say? And what we're doing is we're setting up a conditional format system where I say, all right, John, if this is true about the person, no matter if there's 6 people in the world that this is true about, if this is true, what's the most awesome thing that you could say if this thing is true? And he's like, okay, well, if these stars align, these 4 stars, that is my ideal customer. They're going to buy from me. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. Now, what if these 3 stars align? Okay, we're going to say this. Okay. Now, what if these 2 stars align? Okay, we're going to say this. All right. New stars. What if, the company is hiring for SDRs? Okay, well, we're going to say this. Well, what if the company just laid off SDRs? Okay, we're going to say this. And so essentially what we're going to be able to do is take all of these contacts on a contact level and an account level and score all of them for these magic moments, I'll call, and have this dynamic list of, okay, now we've done all of the research completely programmatically. We have all of the verified emails. We're ready to reach out to them. But every email is relevant based off of the stars that are included on that person's line inside of the spreadsheet, or the way that they align with other things that are going on. And, this is, in my opinion, the highest and best use case that we have for Clay right now. We were talking to another company that does this. They put 14 engineers on the project to be able to make it happen. And even then, they're even still taking looks at other things. And so, this is, I think, is like when we talk about like the new way the sales is going, this idea of like a dynamic prospect list where every single prospect has these different things, which then will fall back on, a message that's still valuable. If no stars align, it's not like we're not going to reach out to them, but then we'll have all of the people that we have far better things to say to.
Yeah. I can't wait to turn this shit on. Let's do it. Which, Eric, are you around tomorrow? Because I got an open day tomorrow if you got some time.
I was actually going to let you know about that. I was I am working on your thing tomorrow morning. So
we can do it. I have to go. I'll be home between 9 and 11, and then after 12. So I'm yours. You just throw me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll ping you on Slack.
Varun, tell people where to, like, it's clay.run, right? That's the website. Clay.com. Okay,
Upgrade.
Cool.
We got that domain, baby.
Oh, you got it. Oh, good for you. I was like, because I kept screwing it up. I was like clay.io, clay.run, and so it's clay.com. You got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And where do you want to? You just want to point people there? Like, what's the best place? Because I rarely do this, by the way. I never lean in on say, oh, you definitely have to do this. I'm like, all right, give you a little promo here. This is one where I'm going to tell reps, go fucking check this out. So outside of going to your website, is that the place to go, or is there other places to hit you guys up to see what you're doing?
Yeah, I didn't go to the website. Sign up for the wait list. If you just mention John Barrows in the wait list form, we'll get you off the wait list. So don't worry about that. And I would say, like, go check out. There's a tab on the website that says like Learn Clay. There's like 40 videos there of crazy things that you can do, and just check them out. I mean, I think your creativity can kind of go wild, and the more creativity you have, the more powerful Clay can be. And the videos cover everything from how to, get tech stack and news data and job listings and scrape websites for keywords, all the way to using, AI to automate emails end to end. So the world's kind of your oyster.
I forgot about that. For those people who are listening right now who are out of work, they can point it at job postings, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a Chrome extension that's free. Like it's free to use, whatever. And you could like go to LinkedIn Jobs, whatever, and scrape all those job listings or Indeed or whatever it might be, put it into Clay and then enrich it. And, everyone on the free trial gets like 1,500 credits. So put it into Clay and then enrich those companies and figure out, which are the companies that are the right fit for you, depending on employee size or fundraising data, and then get the email of your hiring manager, find out who that is, reach out to them. Like, yeah, it's a great hack for recruiting as well.
Fucking fantastic. All right, guys, my head's spinning as usual. I appreciate it. Hopefully we didn't freak too many people the fuck out right now, but I do say that those of you who are listening, and if you know me and you're listening, you've been a long time listener here, I have a feeling you give a shit, and I have a feeling that you care about improving and staying relevant in this world. So stay relevant. Listen, go fucking try some of this shit out, play around with stuff, break shit, ask questions, get better, because otherwise you will get replaced. And so with that, ending on a happy note, even if you are freaked the fuck out right now and you think this blew up your world and you're like, holy shit, I had a terrible day because of it, go out there and make somebody smile today. Because no matter how bad you think your day goes or how bad you think it is out there, if you make somebody smile today, you had a good day. The world needs a lot more of that right now. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much for your time today and listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. With your support and our incredible guests, we're one of the top sales podcasts in the industry with over 1 million downloads, and I can't thank you enough. To keep the momentum going, if you could go to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a 5-star review, I would greatly appreciate it. In return, I will answer any question that you have on Instagram. Hit me up there at John M as in Michael Barrows with a video question or a DM, and I will get right back to you, I promise. And last but not least, if you're looking for training, I'm adjusting my training approach this year, and I'm actually going to be delivering training to the masses. I'll be delivering live training the first and second week of every single month with our 2 marquee courses, Filling the Funnel and Driving to Close, to anybody who wants to join, and it includes membership in our on-demand platform with weekly AMAs. So you can go to jbarrows.com/open to check out the details. Thanks again, and have a great day.